because there are a lot of different kind of attacks that happen. But we are looking at four common types today, four common ones that you may experience regularly, and we're also looking at what is how some of them work and the things that you can do to stop them. We are going to do a practical demonstration also of some how to how some of these attacks work, how to stop it, how to mitigate it. So we're going to have a practical demonstration too. So I will run through the lecture or the story parts quickly so that we can take time to do the practical. So we have common attack. Here I have about four different major types. We have the social engineering, phishing, we have malware and ransomware, password and authentication. So those ones I will call it password attacks, password and authentication attacks. So these are four very common attacks that people experience. And what makes makes them common is because these ones are not particular to organizations. It's not only in organization or corporate environment that you see this attack. Social engineering, for example, happens every day on Facebook, on social media generally, even offline. We see people using social engineering. People trying to exploit people by getting information from them. That's social engineering. So social engineering happens. Phishing is also a very common one. Today, uh, you by the time you open two or three pages online and you're reading about cybersecurity, you hear something about phishing. So phishing is a very common attack too. Then we have malware, ransomware too is everywhere now. Password and authentication. Of course, everybody has password. Everybody makes use of password, and that's why it's everywhere too. Because every device you use can take password, and because password is protecting it's supposed to protect your confidentiality. So people want to break into it. Hackers are always looking at breaking into it. It's like stealing your key and having access to your resources or your house. So that's password and authentication. So these common attacks uh, happen are frequent experience that most users of digital device have. Now we are going to social engineering. So starting with social engineering, social engineering is basically a human attack where human beings is the target. So this is when they are trying to get information from you or get something out of you as a human being. So the other attack may be trying to hack your device, maybe hack your phone, hack your laptop, or hack your network. But in this case, they are trying to hack the human being. So when someone picks up a phone and is trying to find an information from you, is trying to manipulate it in such a way, use psychology to get information from you. For example, the person can pretend to as if he's in an emergency and he's trying to tell you that you should please help him, or tell you, that he try to pretend as if he knows you from somewhere. Maybe because he has seen you wear a t-shirt or check your Facebook profile and see that you're a student or you were a student of a particular school, and then the person forms story around that and trying to extract information, extract resources from you, as a human being without, not going through your devices. So this is social engineering. Basically, human being is the target, and then this is usually multi-layered and it has a snowball effect in the sense that multi-layered in the sense that they need different levels of access to you, in the sense that, for example, they may find they usually have the social engineering involves having a little information, then that little information will be used to get more information from you. That is the multi-layer effect. Like I knew you. For example, I know that you're a student. You were a student of a particular school. Maybe I know your secondary school now. I know how you are a student of this secondary school. That information, I will now use it to try and find out maybe where you live. For example, now I can stage form a story like how were you a student of so secondary school and say yes, I was there too between so year and so year. That one will prompt you to say, oh no, I wasn't there in that year. I would not answer, I was what year were you there? If you tell me the year immediately now, I have that information from you. I can pick that information. I can have God that goes, that period of time, I was living in so place. Where were you living? Trying to get those information using psychology. By the time we finish conversation, I might have found out the year you finished school, the place you are staying, some of the names of your friends, probably the kind of class you are. Maybe you're a science student. I can gather such information from you know conversation. That is social engineering. And then it has a snowball effect in the sense that it can affect you, it can affect your friends, it can affect your family. It can extend easily because social engineering, human beings are not existing alone. So the effect can snowball into other things. So that is it. Then social engineering can be carried out using USB storage devices. For example, people can store things in USB storage and drop it. The social engineering sense of it is that, for example, if I have a malware or I have a virus, I store it in a flash drive. And I know from my investigation from social engineering, I know that people always loiter around a particular area, maybe your workplace. I know your workplace. I know the path you follow to your house. I've already used social engineering to get your address. I know definitely if you see something in your area, you want to pick it up and say, who owns this? I can drop this USB storage, for example, in your company environment, hoping that somebody will pick it up and then want to find out what is inside and plug it in. Then whatever virus or whatever malware that is inside the USB will attack. Then charging cable also is social engineering in the sense that people always need to charge their phones. Human beings need to charge their phone. And the idea is that you can know where people stay. For example, people are traveling in airports. I can plug a charging cable. And these charging are not just charging cable, they are charging cable with some things. There are softwares embedded inside this charging cable. So when you plug this charging cable, you think that it's just a normal charging cable because you are traveling, you are in need of something, and then you quickly plug this cable into your phone, and then your phone becomes infected, and then access your data is exfiltrated. So that is how charging cable, social engineering. These are all involving social engineering. Then we have how do you stop it? Usually they say use multiple form of authentication. For example, if I pick a phone and I call you and I'm pretending to be somebody that you know, by the time you ask me several questions, to verify the authenticity of my personality, you find out information. And also maybe I was able to guess your password from conversation, maybe from your name, from your birthday. I get your password because you use multiple authentication. I need more than password. Maybe there's a token and some other things too that I will not be able to get through social engineering. Maybe your fingerprints, for instance. I can't use social engineering to get your fingerprints. Then don't plug, external media. They always use proof of identity. Proof of identity is simply talking that something that proves the person you are. You know, Usually proof of identity could be biometrics. You know, like your fingerprint, your eyes, iris scanner. These are proof of identity. Then we have phishing here. Phishing, like I said, is very common. Basically, it's a section of social engineering. Phishing, what phishing is doing is basically trying to trick you to go to a website that is not safe. So, as a cybersecurity person, you should be able to identify websites that are safe and ones that are not safe. This is a subsection of social engineering anyway, and it involves not just technical. It involves not just the device. It involves human side too. Because the information, for example, one of the things that happen in phishing, like you don't know, is like they want to pretend like something is urgent, like something is they're trying to hurry you up in the message. So to click something, that is wrong, that is not the right thing. When you click it, you land in a different place. So that is uh, a form of social engineering, which is done through phishing. Phishing trying to trick you to go to a website. Then we have general phishing, we have spear phishing. General phishing is a phishing that is just targeted to everybody generally, nobody in particular in mind. Then spear phishing is when I target you, that I want to hack you. Spear phishing would mean that I will come, I will I will compose the phishing attack directly to for you. In such cases, like the phishing attack that will make sense to somebody may not make sense to another person. So that spear phishing is targeted to someone. Then whaling is when you are targeting top executives, like CEOs, CFOs, the top guys in a company or in an organization or in an institution. Those are whales. They refer to big people, big shots as whales. So when you say whaling, it means you are fishing. You are trying to fish, a whale. So that's for fishing. I'm sure you're familiar with fishing. So if you're looking at fishing here, if you look at the screen, you see example when you have www.https royalmail.co.uk. Instead of royalmail.co.uk. This one has royal. The mail. If we look at the mail here, the L is one. Royal Mail one.co instead of mail. And these are little things that they do. https.amazon.co.uk. They can change it, and then by the time you click on it, you land at am4s, zone.uk.co.uk, which is a completely different thing. So that's how phishing works. I'm sure you have a fundamental knowledge of how phishing works. Then we have malware. Malware is basically malicious software. So these are software that perform malicious actions. Then we have two kinds of malware. We have the generic malware, and then we have the ransomware. So because of the impact, I think it's often separated, and because of the way it operates, they often separate ransomware. It usually stands out amongst all malware. But we have general malware that these are just any software that is performing malicious actions on your system. But ransomware are specialized kind of malware. Then malware, they operate in what we call like command and control, C2/C and C. So command and control is basically talking about a malware, or a software that sets up or infects a target and then communicates back to the server so that the server can control that target. So what is basically simply saying is that if you send a software, a if you infect the device in an organization, the hacker that sends that infected, that software, that malicious software, the hacker may be sitting several kilometers away. But what will happen now when the software gets to the target, gets to that organization, the software will activate a connection and connect back to the hacker wherever he is, so that the hacker will not have control. So it means that the malicious software will run a command on the target and then give control to the hacker wherever the hacker is, so that the hacker cannot control the system. So that is command and control basically. So that is how malware usually works. There's someone here somewhere that is reaping the benefit of what the malicious software is doing elsewhere. Now we have the ransomware. So remember I said ransomware is standing out amongst all malware because it's a special class of malware. It spreads by exploiting known vulnerabilities. Exploiting known vulnerabilities. So it means like ransomware targets some kind of vulnerabilities in devices. So it is usually very, just like you say, it's specialized. It's usually strategic. Well, maybe the strategic is not the word, but it's usually focused on exploiting vulnerabilities. So, for example, you might hear that a software particularly is outdated, and maybe an iOS, let's say iOS 7 or iOS 8, and Apple has said, okay, they are no longer supporting that, iOS. Such iOS means it's vulnerable. That means the flaws, the new technology that have discovered solutions in it, the such iOS or anybody that is using such iOS is vulnerable. So ransomware takes advantage of such vulnerabilities, that are known, and then they use it to exploit the system. So what happens that when the software lands in that target, or in that device that is vulnerable, it will encrypt the data inside the device and make it unaccessible, and then demand for a ransom. So that's why it's called ransom, because usually the essence, the goal of ransomware is to encrypt your data, exploit vulnerability, take over the system, and then encrypt the data. When we say encrypt, it makes the data unreadable, so that you have to pay the hacker, or the person that sent that did the encryption, for the person to decrypt it back to where it was. And then for this malware, usually you need to watch out for .exe file, a PDF, a PowerShell script, which is .ps1, batch script .bat, HTML application .ata, JavaScript file. All these can be used to carry out to execute. So if you are dealing with any of these files that I mentioned, if you see any of these files mentioned, you should scan them extra. There are some computers on some networks that when you even try to download files that are exe, your system will flag it. The antivirus will automatically block it or delete it, unless there is a recognized .exe file, because usually .exe file means that the file can execute, can run on your device. So which is what malware does. Malware comes into your system, infects your system, and starts to run. The same thing, PDF. And if you notice, all these files are files that are kind of executable. They have ability to contain extra information. For example, PDF files, those are the kind of, PDF has a lot of features that you can do. You can put a password in PDF, you can embed images, and you can do a lot of things inside the PDF file. So that it makes it also a safe space for a malicious software to hide. You can think you have a PDF file, you are downloading a PDF. I mean, what that PDF file contains some scripts inside it that will run. The same thing with PowerShell script, batch script, and HTML application, and even JavaScript. So you need to watch out for this thing. If you remember when we were doing traffic, analysis, when we were talking about analyzing logs too, if you check your logs and you suddenly see, maybe you check your Wireshark logs, Wireshark is too used for scanning your traffic, and you suddenly find out that there are a lot of or a particular PDF file is being sent through the network, and you can't understand, or you can't decipher the sender. Maybe you send an unusual IP address is communicating with your system and is sharing a PDF file or a PowerShell script. You should flag it. These are potential dangers to your system or your network. Now, we also have password and authentication. So, meanwhile, so far, I hope you are following me. I'm sure you are following. These are fundamental. Just,
Yes, sir, I'm following you, sir.
yeah, okay.
With you.
So then we have passwords and authentication. Now, passwords is used for authentication. Password is the keyword or the phrase or that which you use to authenticate yourself. Authentication basically talking about authenticity, making sure that the right person is the one trying to do something, authenticate. That's what authentication. So in this case, we are talking about an attack that is centered around passwords and authentication. And because of this, you are talking about password security. So what makes your password secure? What goes on with password and authentication? So the first thing here is you need to have a strong password, because passwords are usually stolen. Password can be, once your password is stolen, it means the person has access, you know. So you need a strong password. So the first thing, because and why do you need a strong password? So because there are software now that can crack, password, or they can guess your password. They have software that you can set to a login page, and they will be generating password. We are going to part of the demonstration we are going to do now. We're going to see how you can generate password. So there are tools that you can use to generate password. But the stronger your password, the more difficult it is for a tool to just randomly, generate your password. You can see an example of a strong password on the screen here, which contains an alphanumeric, it contains a capital letter, it contains small letter, it contains numbers, It even contains some unusual. It contains dates, some unusual dates. It's not just a single date. You can see it's even a range of dates. All these things inside one password. So this is a very strong password. Then we also can make use of passphrase. So when you're talking about passphrase, meaning that you type long a phrase, that is supposed to be act like a password. So instead of just saying one single word like you have above, you can see this one say Vim is obviously indisputably the best text editor. So this is such a long, a phrase that there's no way it will be difficult for anybody to remember that. It will even be difficult for any software to um to generate such a passphrase. Then we have what we call weak password. So a weak password is an example of a weak password is what you use. Let me just use your name and date of birth and maybe one alphanumeric. That's such a very easy to guess password because if your name, most likely the person that holds power, his name, either his name is Garrett, he has a child that is bearing Garrett, or maybe he has a parent that is Garrett or sibling that is Garrett. So such person will Garrett, and also Garrett is a word that's also like a popular word. So if a software is generating password for an hacker, Garrett may be one of the names that are popular names that can be picked, and then of course most of the software to know that people combine name and date. So just combine Garrett 20. By the time you start from Garrett 2000, Garrett 2001, Garrett 2002, it gets to 2012, and then it unlocks whatever I want to unlock. So an example of a weak password is that. Then we have an exposed password. So an exposed password, like even though a password is strong, it can be exposed. It means that why a password can get exposed is that because some of the places where we are signing in, where we are using our password, they don't have a solid protection. They don't have a good enough protection for your password. For example, you go to a website and you have to create a password to log in. So when you create that password, what they do is that they keep a copy of your password in their system so that the next time when you want to log in, they will compare the password you type to the password they have in their system. And if it matches, then your your access is granted. So, and when such is a website that collects your password, it gets hacked. All the passwords in their own database can be exposed, and that is how usually passwords get exposed online. If you go online, so this website there that you can see here is about on. It means if you go to you can put your email address, you can put your password, and it will scan the database that it has. Scan it. So this Have been Pond has a database of password and email addresses that have been compromised in the past. That some hackers are just doing this thing for fun. They will just hack into a place and get all the username and password and post it online free. So it means such passwords have been exposed, and it means that those tools that they use to generate password will reference such available database in the public, which is such a huge thing because you can imagine most people will still not change their password if they are moving on to a new password. So platform. So there's a likelihood that if you are using any password that's been exposed, it can easily be the password can all easily be breached, and compromised. And still on the password and authentication. So when we're talking about password security, usually passwords that can be can be three things can be done to it. Passwords can be in plain text, so but gradually, most websites, most places, it's becoming a thing that your site must be encrypted, must be secured. So and regulators and standards organizations that ensure that websites meet up to security will not allow. Usually they speak against or don't allow you to just maintain passwords in plain text. So when you have a password in plain text, it means the password is exposed. So then we can have password encrypted. So password encryption. So for password security, it needs to be encryption. So our encryption uses keys and it can be reversible. So encryption is basically saying that making something into an unreadable format using a code. So when you encrypt a password, for example, if your password is um, my king 2001, my king 2001 is your password. If it's encrypted, encrypted can change that my king 2001 into 1002 king my. Just an example. Usually it's more difficult. The encryption is more solid than that. But what I'm saying is that there's a formula. You can create a formula you know for encryption. For example, an encryption will do something like adding zero to every after every word. Maybe that my king 2001. After M it has zero. After Y it has zero. That's the key. That just add zero after every letter. That's the key. So somebody that wants to reverse it will also it just simply means remove the zeros in between the letters and you get it. So encryption is simply saying it makes something unreadable, by using of keys, and it is always reversible. Now we now come to the main one, which is password hashing. Password hashing is considered the option, in terms of securing your password properly and being able to authenticate well. Password hashing usually takes an input. So in this case, your password, the password that you have picked is the input for hashing. Because remember, password, the earlier one we said you encrypt your password. This one you are hashing the password. So the password becomes the input into a complicated mathematical algorithm, which algorithm will now generate when it works on your password as the input, it will generate a very unique output. And when we say unique output, it means that even with the slightest changes in the input, which is the password, the output will be different. For example, if your password is capital M, we say my king, with capital M. If you hash that my king, the the output you will get will be different from if the my king, if the M is a small case. So the fact that just a single small case, in fact, if you just put a dot, a full stop at the end of the statement, and in the other one you didn't put a full stop, the hash will be different. If you put just a comma, if you keep space, if you just increase the space between the letters and you hash it, the hash will be different from the one that you didn't have any space. So hashing is very secure, because the algorithm is complicated and usually it comes out with a fixed length no matter what. you know, why it has a fixed length is like the algorithm you choose to use. If you pick a particular algorithm that you're using, that algorithm, that hashing algorithm will always generate the same length for all, no matter how long the password, even if it's a phrase, no matter how long, how different the input you are giving it is, the output will always be different. So what are we saying now? We can have a mathematical algorithm that always produce a hash in 32 bits. Let's assume the particular algorithm, whenever I hash, it hashes 32 bits out. That's what the algorithm does. So if you like, let the password be 500 letters. The output of that hashing will always be 32 bits. If you like, let it be just one letter. The output will be same length. So although the output will be unique, if you put one and dot and not and you hash it, it will give you unique output. But this output will always be of the same length, no matter how diverse the input, which is the password, is. And the thing there, which is very most important, is it is irreversible. Once you hash it, an input, a password, whatever you will decide to hash, once you hash it, you cannot reverse that particular hash back. Unlike the encryption, where I said if you encrypt something, all you need is the key. When you It's like you lock a door, to unlock the door, you use the key. But hashing is like it's permanent. Once you hash it, you can't reverse that hash back. You can't like now look for another mathematical algorithm that will reverse or calculate. No, it's not hashing. So hashing is irreversible. and fixed length. Now, looking at generating, passwords. Okay. So now, um, I've talked about passwords. So password, we talk about the importance of generating very strong or having a strong password. So there are tools that you can use to generate password, and this is common in cybersecurity. For example, if you are working as a cybersecurity analyst for an organization, and in that organization, maybe you have like, you know 50 devices that, and all of them need passwords, and you want them to have secure passwords. You can use such tools to generate password for all of them. It will help you to generate password. So we are going to look at that in a minute, which will form out of the practical sessions that we're going to be doing. Password generation. Let's see. So we have different types of tools that can help you generate password. There was a particular one I was trying to remember when I was putting this together, but I couldn't remember. Maybe later, if I remember, I will still talk about it. But yeah, the essence of strong password, like you said, is the risk of brute force attack. So brute force, like brute force attack is a try and error at kind of attack where the hacker is trying different things, trying to generate, to guess the password. So the stronger your password, the more difficult it is to guess. Even when they are using softwares or tools to guess, it will take a longer time for the tool to guess the password when the password is strong. So here we have we're making use of two tools here. We have password generator and open SSL. So password generator is PWGen. So if you are using Kali Linux, Kali Linux usually comes with most of these tools installed. So if you can see here, if you do password, so iPhone H, I usually always tell you what give you the options. So you can see all the options there. Password gen options, the length and the numeric, the length of the password. So okay, then you can have iPhone C, you can capitalize, you can iPhone A, no capitalize numerals. If you want zero, if you put iPhone 0, it won't include, it won't include numbers in the password. So let's see what we get. So using PWGen, let's just without see. Let me just put. So another thing you need to put into consideration when generating password, like you said, you need the longer the password, the stronger it is, and then the longer passwords are stronger than shorter passwords. Then longer passwords with a mixture of alphabets, capital and small letter, and numbers is stronger than a just longer password that doesn't have a mixture. So all these things need to come into play. So password gen, let's do